I hope Edu and Arteta can still play a little bit of ball because the amount of players that they're getting rid of, they're probably going to have to get out there and play themselves. Welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. Let's do it. Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JacinioTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. And we're doing another transfer show for you today. We're going to be talking about Aubameyang. He seems to be on the radar for Barcelona, so we'll chit-chat about that a little bit. Matt Turner to Arsenal seems to be all but done. If you guys happen to be able to get a hold of the match, Matt Turner should be available for the U.S. men's national team. They will be kicking off in about 2 hours time. So if you want to see what the new Arsenal goalkeeper looks like, you might want to tune into that match. We'll also be talking about Calum Chambers because he's gone, ladies and gentlemen. He has left the building and is now signed for Aston Villa, and one of those sneaky little Aston Villa transfers, very similar to Danny Ings during this past summer window where nobody really knew anything and boom, the guy was gone. So we'll be talking about those rumors and not really rumors, but done deals and one rumor really. I wish I had more interesting things to talk to you guys about, more high profile striker signings and midfield signings. I know there's a little bit of some interest or some reports around Douglas Luiz, but I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not sure what's going on with the club, and until there's some more firm reports out there, we're just going to talk about the things that feel a little bit more concrete, if that makes sense. And obviously, this is your show as well, and I want to get your comments and questions and all of that up on the screen. I want to know how you guys are feeling. Are you going to tune into the U.S. men's national team match this evening? Are you watching Brazil right now? I'm seeing that CONMEBOL is CONMEBOLing, and that game seems to be, doing what it always does. When the South American teams play, it's always a good time. So, are you guys watching those matches? And I'm not quite at the point where I am ready to watch Arsenal play again. I'm still kind of enjoying not really having to watch them play football, but I am ready to watch something. So I will be tuning into the U.S. men's national team match. But how are you guys? Let me know how you guys are feeling. I'm going to look in the chat box now. You guys better be active in there. There's about 50 of you guys here. So get in the chat box and let me know how you're feeling. Craig Malloy says, big up to Arsenal in the WSL, winning 2-1. Massive, massive win for the Arsenal women today against the Brighton women. We went down 1-0 and were able to come back to win 2-1. Masterclass from Beth Mead from her dead ball deliveries. And so we stay 4 points clear of Chelsea, and we still have to play them soon, but that was a big win for the Arsenal women, and so yeah, big up to them. Lucas says Chambers went into the chamber. Dr. Omiza Vop says, hey Jess, how are you doing though? I am doing good, you guys. I really can't complain. Just chilling, happy that there's some football on, and I'm also getting ready for the MLS season coming up. It starts in February. So I'll be covering LAFC again, just like I was last season. And just plugging away and enjoying this transfer window. Shahil says, this Adu guy ain't good. All he does is sell players for free or terminate contracts. He needs to be sacked ASAP. We will talk about that. Craig Malloy says, Jess, why didn't Adu go to see Stan instead of Arteta? I don't know. Rich Something says, my question, Jess, is what the hell is going on with selling all of our defenders with no replacements? Is Saliba coming back? Based on the reports from Fabrizio Romano that just came out maybe an hour or so ago, it seems like there were reports out of France saying that Saliba wants to stay at Marseille, and then the journalists in England that are close to the club put out a report pretty much the next day saying that Saliba wants to come back. And the report from Fabrizio Romano was straight from the horse's mouth, straight from Saliba, where they asked him about Arsenal. He said something to the effect of, Arsenal, I am focusing all my energy on Marseille. We'll talk about it at the end of the season. And so we went from he's definitely going to stay at Marseille to he's definitely coming back to Arsenal to it's back to the ominous again, where we don't know what's going on with him. And you guys know my thoughts on Saliba is that if there was ever a situation that needs to be smoothed over, it's with William Saliba. We have 3 defenders. We have Rob Holding, Gabriel, and Ben White that play center back. You could move Tomiyasu, but then you weaken your right side. And so instead of going into the next transfer window and not being able to spend as much money possible on a striker and a midfielder, the last thing I would want to do is to be, spending some of that on a center back when we have a really exciting and talented young center back that we've already spent money on. So this needs to be smoothed over. I didn't like what he said to Fabrizio Romano. It didn't give me any comfort. It didn't make me feel like he's definitely coming back, so I don't know if Saliba's coming back, but from that interview, I would say that it doesn't seem so. And they obviously need him to qualify for the Champions League. Marseille, I think at the moment is in 3rd behind PSG and Nice, and the first 2, the first and the second spot in League One are automatic qualification for the Champions League, and the 3rd place spot is a playoff or a playoff spot type thing. So they're not going to get rid of him in January, so I don't think he's coming back. Let's see. John P, feel better. Please get well. Take care of yourself. I hate to hear that you have COVID, but hopefully things clear up and you pass a negative test soon. Feel better, okay? John Lenartson says U.S. men's national team is going to slaughter El Salvador. I hope so. I hope so. Uchenna says, with the recent departures, I suspect there will be a few incomings before the window closes. Lucas says, Jess, I got a question right away. You are Jacinho, but shouldn't you be Jacinha? Maybe. Jacinho is just, I put my name with Ronaldinho and got with that, but maybe I should be Jacinha. I should learn Portuguese. That is something that I wanted to do over the years, but I haven't had a chance to do it. And honestly, I was so bad at learning different languages in high school and college. So I'm kind of school. But, I do want to learn Portuguese, and maybe I should be Jacinha, but I like Jacinho. I like the way it sounds because it really, the reason why I did it is because I just wanted to put me and Ronaldinho's names together. That was it. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into it. There's almost 100 of you guys here. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. So let's start off with Calum Chambers. So Calum Chambers has left us. He's left to go to Villa, and it was so random, but it was so like Villa. We know that they've done a transfer like this before with Danny Ings, where it just happened out of nowhere. Just one day, boom, he's a Villa player. And so Calum Chambers is now a Villa player. And I would say that I'm not about to go back in time and act like I've always rated Chambers and I wanted him to stay. I've always kind of wanted us to move on this Deadwood. I just questioned the timing of it. Is this real? Oh, this guy is not reliable. This guy's not reliable, so I'm not even going to put that out there. But yeah, I think that I find the timing of it strange because, we don't have any defenders. We don't have any center backs. You've already sent Pablo Marie. So I know the idea is that okay, so we're probably not going to get that many injuries. We're not in any cups. We only have 17 matches left. But Arsenal, and luck are not good friends. And so luck hasn't really been on our side. So I just feel a little bit like we probably should have kept somebody. We got rid of Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He probably was one of our best utility players. Callum Chambers is probably our second best utility player. And so to get rid of both of them in one window and leave us with Cedric and Holding just feels a little bit arrogant for a team that is trying to push for the top 4/top 6, and we're not clear of anybody. It doesn't seem like we're right there in the pack, so I find it to just be a little bit like arrogant right now. But this the deal is not very clear on the website. On Arsenal's website, it says it's an undisclosed fee, and then James Bench came out and said that the fee could go up to 2 million. So basically, it's zero, but with performance bonuses and adding his salary off the books, which you never really add somebody's salary into a fee for a transfer. It could get up to 2 million. So essentially we gave him away. I mean, that's what I kind of gather from it. We tried to make it nice by putting his salary in there with it and performance related bonuses, but all in all, we really haven't gotten a lot for Callum Chambers. He was going to leave for free at the end of the transfer window, or sorry, at the end of the season. So you could say like, okay, well, it's better to get like 2 million rather than nothing. But at the same time, it's leaving us very, very thin at the back with only Cedric, who is recovering from an injury, if I'm not mistaken. Tomiyasu, who's trying to recover from an injury, White and Gabriel and Holding. So it just feels a little bit strange to be pushing him out the door like this. It feels like maybe, I mean, it's 2 million basically for free is not an offer that you can't refuse. Like I could understand if Aston Villa had offered us 5 to 10 million, and it wasn't just performance relating bonuses and his salary. But we gave him away for free. I mean, that's what it is, so I just kind of feel like it's just odd. It's very odd. And people are trying to put two and two together and say that it might have something to do with Douglas Luiz. We are interested in him, and he is one of our long-term targets. And he is a Kia client. So there's that. But that's the only way that it made sense. That's the only way that it makes sense to me, is that if it's a make way for the Douglas Luiz deal to go through a little bit easier. But if for some reason the window closes and there's no Douglas Luiz and we don't have Callum Chambers and we're just sitting here with Cedric, it feels a little like arrogant. And so, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like I really rate Chambers, but I just feel like with a team that is trying to push for Europe, squad depth is going to be important, even if we're not in any cups, because COVID's not going anywhere. So we just need a couple of players to get COVID or a player or two to get injured. And we're looking at pulling players from other positions to play in our back line. We're looking at pulling Xhaka and putting him in the back line, for a match or two, so it's a risk, but again, it feels like we love a risk, and I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm not feeling this, let's just go with Xhaka and Thomas Partey and that's it. And Sambi and El Neni. I'm not really feeling the risky when we need to qualify for Europe. So there you go. But those are my feelings on it. How do you guys feel about Callum Chambers leaving to go to Villa? Did you rate him? Are you going to miss him? He's somebody that's been around for a while. I mean, he's been at Arsenal for like 6-7 years or something like that. So he's a part of the furniture. He's somebody that, has went out on loan and stuff, but ultimately has been around for a minute, so I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I'm going to miss him so much. I'm just going to say that, he's been around for a while, and he was somebody that needed to go, but I'm not sure that right now is necessarily the time, especially if we weren't going to get a big fee. Matt G says the Chambers deal gives me hope that maybe the club are keeping things even more quiet than we all thought. I mean, do you think it's quiet on our side, or do you think it's quiet on Villa's side? Do you think it's Arsenal are keeping things quiet, or do you think it's Villa? Because Villa are the ones that are known for these like sneaky little transfers. It could be Arsenal as well, working really quietly to try to get things done, but it did pop up out of nowhere. So maybe you could say like, okay, well, maybe we're working in silence. And I know that's what a lot of Arsenal fans are hoping, that, on Monday, we're not sitting here like, wow, we're doing absolutely nothing. Like, we want to see things come to fruition, before then. So hopefully it does. Hopefully the club is working on something. Hoj is saying I'm expecting a Matt Ryan type thing. So somebody just popping up out of nowhere. Dr. Omiza says I definitely would miss him. I do rate Chambers ahead of Holding. Just he is a versatile player, gives him the edge for me. I mean, I think they're both about the same. I don't want either of them really at the club anymore, to be honest. But if I have to choose one or the other, I think Chambers is a little bit more versatile. So he makes it, he's more useful to me than Holding, I guess, in that way. But Holding is a part of the freaking leadership group, so Arteta clearly really likes Holding and is okay with letting Chambers go, so there you go. Rancid Pumpkin says we have 1 game per week. We should be able to manage that. We should, but I wouldn't want to leave it up to should. We should have been able to play some recognizable midfield in January, and we weren't able to. So shoulds and, maybes and luck don't really go with Arsenal very well. So I don't think you needed to get rid of Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Callum Chambers unless you're working to do something. And again, he's a make way for something or whatever. But if he's not, then I mean, we gave him away for nothing. They can say it's a $2 million, $2 million fee, but really what they added together was performance related bonuses, and his salary to kind of beef up the fee. We gave him away. So yeah, we didn't have to. Hey Panduro says Chambers move and the rest of the deadwood during this window feels like we're clearing up the squad in preparation for the right players. I'm expecting moves during this window. Thoughts? I mean, that's what it feels like. But then at the same time, there's something in the back of my mind that says, do I trust that they're going to be able to get these things over the line? I don't know. We could be clearing the decks for the summer. You never know. Like, it could be an early clean out because we know in the summer, we're still going to have to shift some dead wood in order to get things done. So some of these players may be just preemptive moves before the summer as well. I don't know. I want to believe that we are moving this dead wood for the right players in this window. But if on Monday, the window shut and nobody came in, I wouldn't really be shocked, to be honest. Yeah. So let's see. John P says we used January last year to clean house. Yes, we did. Maybe that's just the club's way. Is January is to clean house, and then in the summer we do big things. A lot of teams do that. There's not a lot of movement in this window as well. I know this window is very difficult, so I always take that into consideration when I make my expectations for the window. I just feel like I'm very concerned about relying upon Thomas Partey and Xhaka basically for the rest of the season. And I get that Elneny will come back, but Elneny is not up to the standard. The level drops off massively when he's in the game. See Manchester United away from home this season. And then you have Sambi, and we know what Sambi is right now. So yeah. John Lenartinson says the timing is awful. We need warm bodies at this point. 5 out, none in. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It really is. Craig Malloy says Villa are moving like a top 4 club compared to Arsenal right now. I mean, do you guys agree with that? Do you think that the speed in which Aston Villa is doing their business means that they're moving like a big club? I mean, last summer, there were a lot of people that jumped the gun quite early and said that Villa were going to be a better team than us. They were going to be higher than us in the table. They had a better project, that Emil Smith Rowe would jump ship and bite your hand off for a move to Villa. And they haven't been that great, and we've been much better than them. You can say it's because they shifted managers, but nobody was saying that before the season started. So is the speed in which you get deals done meaning that you're a top 4 team, or no? Because beyond, if I'm honest, beyond Liverpool and City, most teams that I see work take a lot longer than you probably think that they should. So I'm not sure if I believe that the speed in which the deals get done necessarily mean that you're a top 4 club or you're moving like one. I think the type of deals are more important than the speed, because I was told that Ings and Bailey and who else did they get? Buendia was better than what we got in the summer, and it clearly has not been. So for me, it's more the quality of what you bring in versus the speed, to be honest. And them getting Callum Chambers from us doesn't necessarily really improve their squad, to be honest. He's a squad filler. But I get what you're trying to say, is that big clubs should be moving in January, but none of the top 4 teams have really done anything in January. They really haven't. Nobody really does anything in January. And I feel like because Steven Gerrard is such a big get for Aston Villa, they're trying to back him. And but Arteta was backed this past summer. So I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit like all they're doing is finishing their deals quick. And they were kind of low in the table, and they're clearly trying to get onto the front page or the top page. So they have to make moves. And so I'm not sure if I really think that Coutinho and Callum Chambers necessarily means that they're moving like a big club. Diallo says Chambers was on loads of money, remember, and not used at all. I would personally treat this as with total contempt. Nothing here to discuss about, in my opinion. Hold on. Let's see. Diallo says exactly. Signing a man like Chambers does not ring ambition at all. Most of Villa's summer signings have flopped. I mean, yeah, I know that people want to force Villa, they're doing this and they're doing that, but I think sometimes it's just people want to shit on Arsenal so badly that they want to make it like, oh, Aston Villa are doing this and that. They brought in Coutinho and Chambers. Like, they just did it quicker than we've done anything. And I don't think it's always the speed, but I kind of get what he was trying to say. Matt G, I don't understand the Chambers move. We had an option to extend his contract by a year, which would have at least increased value. Good squad player to have. Yeah, but just imagine what would have. Do you think? So we're selling him for the 2 million, and we're going to get him off the wage books or whatever, right? But just imagine had we extended him. What do you think the response would have been? Instead of selling him, getting rid of him, and we would have extended him that additional year, the Arsenal fan base would still be unhappy, because the narrative would be, oh my gosh, we are keeping around somebody who is just deadwood, and he's not good enough. And so I think you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I've seen us extend contracts, and even if it was to retain value, it's been met with a lot of anger, so I think either way, either thing that you do doesn't make sense. For me, it's not so much about Chambers per se, like what do we get for him and all this kind of stuff. I would just imagine that if they didn't offer us 5 to 10 million for him with 6 months left on his deal, then there was no rush to move him on because of the lack of squad that we already have, so because I don't really care about upping his value or whatever. I just think he's got to go anyway. And I don't think anybody was going to really pay us that much for Callum Chambers, but I hope like my point makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense, you guys, that I'm more concerned about us getting rid of him because we really didn't get a fee. So why did we just give him away? That's all I'm saying. The True Sets Free, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. True Sets Free says like, share, sub, etc. Help the channel grow at warp speed. Thank you so much. You guys do what the True Sets Free says. Yo-Yo says Villa want to get ahead of Everton and chase down Leicester as the 7th big club. Yeah, I mean, there is kind of a race for that. You see Wolves trying to do that. Everton is kind of like has always kind of held that spot. Leicester, but we don't really need to be worried about what Aston Villa are doing. We need to be worried about who's in front of us and try to catch them. I don't really want to operate like Villa. I want to operate like Liverpool and City and Chelsea, the teams that are actually ran properly. So I get we do this all the time. Like we looked at Leicester for years as a team that we should be following and all this kind of stuff. Basically, what they've done is recruited very well, and then they weren't able to sell some of their best players, and those players have kind of, how like you have like a vegetable or something, and it was at like peak ripeness. Like I feel like at one point, like Ndidi, Madison, and Tielemans were like at peak ripeness, and because of COVID, they weren't able to sell that one big player like they always do. They always sell that one big player, get that money, reinvest, and keep it moving. They weren't able to do that because of COVID. So now they have like 3 stalks of celery that are, a little bit more limp, and they look green, but they're done, and they're not going to be able to get that top money for those players anymore. And so, I get the Leicester and Villa and they ran so well and stuff, but they also can run that way because they're not big clubs. Arsenal need to be looking towards the teams that are above us and start trying to emulate them and not look at, oh, Aston Villa signed, Coutinho and whatever his name is, Chambers, and then, oh, okay, we need to be all freaked out about that. I think we need to look in the other direction. So let's talk about Aubameyang really quick. So Auba apparently is somebody that Barcelona are looking at if they can't get Morata. And so Morata is at Juventus. And so I think they're finding that deal to be difficult to get done. Vlahovic just went to Juventus, so I'm not sure if that would help Morata get over there. But Barcelona seem to have set their sights on Aubameyang as a second option if they can't get Morata. The difficulty with this deal is that Dembele will also have to move on in order for this to get done. And so for me, you guys, when there's a lot of factors where there's a number one choice, and then there's somebody else that needs to leave the club, and there's 2 minutes left in the window, I tend to think that this is very unlikely. So even if they've set their sights on Aubameyang, you have to think of both things. Like now that Juventus have Vlahovic, they could technically get rid of Morata. They could. I would imagine that they would be smarter for them not to, because you don't know what's going to happen with Vlahovic, and they need another striker. But they could technically get rid of Morata, and that's their number one choice, right? They don't really want to go for Aubameyang, especially with Aubameyang's wages are insane. Then with Dembele, he is somebody that I don't think he has a big, a long line of suitors, and we know that Chelsea was the most interested in him. But the most recent report that I read about Chelsea's interest in Dembele is that the clubs are talking about a summer move would be a better fit for everybody. So even though they've set their sights on Aubameyang, I just don't see Aubameyang leaving this window. I think his wages are a huge issue. I think the narrative around him is quite a big issue. And so, I just can't really see it happening. I can't see Barcelona taking on his wages. I can't see any team in Europe taking in his wages because they're astronomical. And, I'm not sure that he really, he's not at peak Aubameyang either, so it's a huge risk for anybody to take him. So I think that we will be stuck with Aubameyang really. For this window. John P says, do you think we'll be able to shift Aubameyang? I would say, if I had to give it a percentage, I would say 25%. No, maybe even less than that. But just to be nice, 25%, I would say he maybe would go, and 75% he would stay, because the wages are a huge issue, and it feels like he's never anybody's first option. He's never anybody's first choice. It's always, well, we really want so-and-so, but Aubameyang's on the list, and he's probably down low on the list because of his wages. So with all the different aspects of this that would need to go right for him to leave the club. I just don't see us being able to shift him on. And that's what makes we know there's going to be some sort of weirdness if he doesn't leave this window, because all the reports coming out of the club are saying that he's not a part of Arteta's plans. So if you're not a part of Arteta's plans, what does that mean? That means that you are not in the squad, buddy. So you can't not sign a striker and then have Aubameyang sitting around. And then if you're not winning games, it gets worse. We know how this is. We know how it is. We know that the reason why we didn't care that much about Aubameyang being outside of the squad before was because in December, we had our best run in the league as we possibly could. We were excellent in December. Then January rolled around, our form dipped, and now people are talking about Aubameyang again because the last thing that they remember is Lacazette missing a sitter. And so that will be the same exact thing if we don't get a striker in this window and we go through some bad run of form, especially because we know what the assignment is. We know we need to finish in Europe. So a couple of bad results where Lacazette's not playing well and Aubameyang is being photographed training with the under 23s or just omitted from the squad or can't get into the team is going to be Ozil 2.0. It really, really is. It's going to be Ozil 2.0. I remember those days where we didn't have a single creative player in the team and we omitted Ozil from the squad. And it was just every single time that we didn't score a goal, it was, Ozil is not there and he can't get in the squad. And it's not about him being able to get in the squad, you guys. We know that Aubameyang's better than Nketiah. When you're not a part of Arteta's plans, you are not a part of Arteta's plans. And we know what that means. We've seen it enough times here at Arsenal under his tenure. So I don't see there being some sort of reconciliation or Arteta tucking his tail between his legs and coming back to Aubameyang and saying, hey, can we get you back into the squad? I think it's done, so it's going to be one of those, we'll see. Rancid Pumpkin is saying according to whatever that says, Mourinho wants to buy Xhaka this January. I think it was a loan. He wants to loan Xhaka, and it's weird. It's kind of like one of those ones where I'm thinking like, it would be nice to get rid of Xhaka. I can't lie. If we could send him on loan and bring in Douglas Luiz, that would be ideal because Douglas Luiz hits the ground running. He definitely can't be the center midfielder signing, right? Because that is not what we envision when we're talking about the central midfield signing, but we know we need more than one, right? But bringing in somebody that's Premier League proven, that just has a clean slate and doesn't have that reputation red lurking around the corner, I feel like would just give us something to look forward to at the back end of the season and not be sitting there waiting on the next red card coming for Granit Xhaka or the next penalty. But I did see the report saying that Mourinho wants to loan him. And it's just so jank the way that these clubs do us because especially because our players are, I think, players that people know we want to get rid of. They don't offer us much for them because they feel like we're desperate. So that entire summer that has gone past where Mourinho and co were unwilling to pay like a measly 15 million for Granit Xhaka or 20 or something like that, but they turned around and paid the money for Tammy Abraham. They turned around and bought another player as well. I mean, loaning him out needs to come with an obligation if we do it. But I wouldn't mind seeing Granit Xhaka go in January to Roma and us bring in another midfielder, because I also feel like that's what has to happen in order for us to bring the midfielder in. I just don't think the club has enough about them to bring in a midfielder that could potentially start for us while Xhaka is still here. I think they love that very clear, hierarchy of these are the starters, these are the backups, no competition. That is not going to win us anything. I'm telling you that right now. But it feels like that's what the club likes, and it's bullshit. Let's see. Yeah, he's all Halal's first choice, but I mean, that's not his first choice. Let's see. Diallo says Auba not going to Dubai puts the nails on his coffin. He's done and no way back. Also, the negative story surrounding him makes it difficult to shift. The guy needs marriage counseling. I mean, yeah, he's just not an attractive proposition right now. He's not really in form. He is on high wages. He's seen as somebody that's a very unserious person. So, what can you do? What can you do? So you guys, I don't know what the plan is. Honestly, I don't know. But the squad is getting thinner and thinner, and we don't seem to be bringing anybody in. Elliot Roberts says, "What is more likely, Osimhen or Isak to Arsenal?" I don't know. Osimhen seems like something that they just threw out there because they know we're ready to bite at anything that's a striker signing. The Arsenal fan base is thirsty, like thirsty. So the Osimhen one just feels like something that they threw out there because Vlahovic didn't come and Isak doesn't want to come. And so let's just throw Osimhen in the mix just to get people clicking. But I would say Isak is probably most likely just because it feels like he's been on lists from like Arsenal correspondents as somebody that we have looked at and we like a lot and we would want to come to Arsenal. I haven't seen Osimhen on any of those lists. So I would say just based on that, more Isak. But in this window, it would be very difficult to get Isak because they don't have to sell. They're not pressured to sell. They could easily wait until the summer. They could easily wait another year. He's only 22 years old. So unless we want to pay the release clause and he's ready to secure his future with Arsenal, which there are already rumors out there that he is not convinced about our project, I can't see him coming in this window. I can't see a striker coming in. I really can't. Thank you so much. The truth sets free. Let's see. Tom X says, "What's your opinion on Arteta not signing any attacking players since he took over?" Most of our money is wrapped up in Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Pepe. And also, you build from the back. So there's two different parts of this. I think you build from the back. So that's what we've done. We bought a midfielder. We bought a shit ton of defenders, goalkeeper. We've done pretty much everything we can to build the foundation for what's going to happen in front of that. And so he brought in Willian to try to supplement because I don't think he's really sold on Pepe, but that backfired on him. And so when you look at $72 million Pepe, who's on over 120 grand a week or something like that, Lacazette, who's almost on 200 grand a week, that cost us like 45 million, and Aubameyang that cost us just as much, but is on 300 and something grand a week. We just have to wait for that to fall off and then buy attackers. Like, we know that that's the next part of the equation, and we spent the time building from the back, and Arsenal fans are not going to like that because, one, we're not used to having a good defense. We're not used to building from the back. Arsene was more of like, how many more attacking midfielders can we get into this team? So another goalkeeper signing, another right back signing, another center back signing is not going to get you excited. But that's important. And we had a horrendous back line. And if you looked at what Arteta first arrived to, what would you think would be the most important thing? Because at that point, you still have Aubameyang, he's still firing. Lacazette is supposed to be like a decent striker, and you have Pepe. The back line. He had Luiz, Mustafi, Socrates, Bellerin. That back line was dead. And for me, they had to address the back line first. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not what people care about. We want to see what's the new attacking midfielder, what's the this and that, but until those guys leave, we're not going to sign attackers. And that's why it's taken us so long, because you cannot get rid of Aubameyang on those wages. You cannot get rid of Lacazette on those wages. And Pepe is going to be hard to move as well. So all of our money being wrapped up in the attack has led to, I think, Arteta just having to work with what he's got. And it's just a little bit of business management. It's not fun, but the midfield and the defense has to be addressed first. And then you would just hope that you can get something out of the very expensive attack that you have at your disposal and Arteta just hasn't been able to get much out of it. So we've went to the kids, and that's pretty much what has happened. But we know that the attack is coming next. We know it's coming next. I hope that makes sense. Joshin, you know Arsenal? Yes, I do. Well, I think I do. I love Arsenal. I think I know it. So there you go. Let's see. Yeah, he signed Willie and it backfired on him. It wasn't a good signing. We all know that. Hoj says, I think we rejected a bid for Nketiah, so I don't think we are getting a striker. I don't know, because it was weird because we went for Vlahovic, but there was no word about Aubameyang needing to go or not. Now, when we're talking about strikers and attackers, it's kind of like, well, only if Aubameyang leaves. So that's kind of strange, isn't it? Yeah. John Lenarston says Pepe is going to be ready for a fresh start at Arsenal. Hopefully, he can hit the ground running and can add something to this attack, because we're going to need him. Like, even though he's somebody that I think will inevitably have to move on, we'll have to move on. We need him right now. Odegaard is somewhat of an attacker. I think when people say attackers, like people that are going to be in that front line. So yeah. Yeah, we get it, you guys. This is Arteta's team. I'm not saying it's not his team, but I'm saying that, like, these are not his. He hasn't really bought any attackers. He really hasn't, and we can't go back in time. Like everybody who's like, but he re-signed Aubameyang. I will go back and look at how many Arsenal fans that would or say if we don't re-sign Aubameyang, we're finished. So let's not try to go back in time and act like a lot of people wanted Pepe, a lot of people wanted Aubameyang re-signed. So let's not sit here and act like because Arteta made those choices that we knew beforehand, and even he knew beforehand that they would fail. You know what I mean? Because he didn't even sign Pepe. So yeah. Let's see. Ryan says Arteta uses Saka and Martinelli as wing backs. Why ESR and Odegaard are creating. Yeah. As wing backs. Why ESR and our Odegaard are creating. I don't really get your comment here. Arteta uses Saka and Martinelli as wing backs. I mean, they're wingers. They're wingers. I'm not sure that they're used as wing backs. I'm not sure I understand. Rancid Pumpkin says this window looks not great so far, but there's still hope. We're going to do something. Won't imagine the meltdown if we don't bring someone in. I mean, we know that it's coming. People are already melting down. And, I've already had my little like, oh my gosh, I don't think that we're going to sign anybody. And I've kind of just said, I just hope that the boys are getting rest and that they're ready to go, because they're going to need to play. That starting lineup is basically going to have to play for the next 17 matches. Yo-Yo says, midfield, in my opinion, 34 Torreira Ozil was useless without the ball and ensured Arsenal played tabletop football. The club suffered from not addressing the midfield adequately for years. Yeah, it feels like we're very slow to address it, and because, well, Xhaka is just fine, but the midfield has been such an issue for so long, and Thomas Partey is just not enough. Like, we do this thing where we bring in one person and we say, okay, save us. But no good team just brings in one midfielder and it just all works together. And so, I mean, I've been dying for this midfield to change, and I still think we need 2 midfield signings and Xhaka to go and not be an option at all for us to fully move on and see this team change, because the game is won and lost in midfield as far as I'm concerned. And the best teams have the strongest midfield. And that's why when they play and they're playing well, we look really good. But when they're not there and they're not playing well, we look shit. And so it's important for us to get that midfield together. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Neves and Tielemans and stuff. I think those are summer signings, you guys, but we'll see what happens. Cairo says, Jess, since we didn't sign Bruno, who would be your second choice? I think we need a number 6. I think while Thomas Partey is here, and here's the thing is that I think what's going to happen with Thomas and what's going to happen without him. And I think because of what we've seen from him so far, and this hurts me to say, I love him so much. He is definitely somebody that I think has more to give. But I think we need to think about what we're going to do with him and what we're going to do without him and how we can not rely upon him. Because once you see somebody who's a little bit unreliable, and the thing about Thomas Partey is it's not just the injuries, it's a little bit of his form going in and out. And I still think he'll get better, but he's already 29 years old. So we need to think beyond him and think about him as somebody that maybe doesn't start every single game, but if you have Thomas Partey coming off your bench, a motivated Thomas Partey coming off of your bench and starting some games, you're in a good position. So I would like for us to bring in a number 6 and start building the midfield 3. And then in some games where we need a little bit more stability, you could go with the 6 and Thomas Partey and the double pivot. But in games where you want to be more attacking, you can go with the number 6, take Thomas Partey out, and have 2 8s. And I think the closer of the two at the moment to becoming somewhat of an 8 is probably Odegaard. I don't think ESR has showed much of that yet. So what I would like to see is another number 8 come in, like a number 8 that can distribute from deep, a deep lying playmaker type that but also could go forward a little bit. And so not really specifically these people, but a midfield that looks like Odegaard, Basuma, and Tielemans, something like that. But a Tielemans that can actually defend a little bit, something like that. Not necessarily Tielemans, but something like that. So my second choice, if it's not Bruno, would be Basuma. And if it's not Basuma, Douglas Luiz, somebody that could play either as like a left-sided 8 or a left central midfielder and a midfield pivot. That's what I would go for. Because we need to start future planning beyond Thomas Partey. It's really unfortunate, but at his age and with the fact that he's right now, it just feels like a season and a half kind of wasted. I would not go into the next couple of seasons feeling like I can rely upon him. But again, we're building a squad, and instead of having, and this is something that Yo-Yo talked about, like making the current starters become your squad players. And I think Thomas Partey is somebody that I'm looking at that could be somewhat of somebody that we can start sometimes and have other options as well. So we're not relying upon him so much. I don't think he's somebody you can rely upon. I think it's too much stress for him, to be honest. I don't know if he has the mentality. Let's see. So yeah, the last thing that I just want to touch on really quick before we just kind of have like a general chat is Matt Turner seems to be all but an Arsenal player. And one thing about Arsenal is we know how to sign a fucking goalkeeper. We love goalkeepers. We love a goalkeeper signing. And so Matt Turner seems like the most likely to come in, but the only thing is that he won't come in until the summer. So that means Leno will stay, but at least we have Leno's replacement ready. And so that makes me think that we know we're going to sell Leno in the summer, and that's fine. Leno needs to go. I think he's done his bit, and Matt Turner is probably the right move in terms of a backup goalkeeper. From a temperament standpoint, he's somebody that off the pitch is a good guy, somebody that is going to be with the group and not cause friction, but also is a really good shot stopper. And, he's going to be a backup. And I know people, he doesn't play well with his feet. He's a backup. He's a backup. He's a backup. He's a backup. And so we don't need to be that worried about it. He's going to cost us about $5 million. He's going to be on probably a quarter of the wages that Leno is on right now. And so we decrease the wage bill once again. I think like Ramsdale is on like 35 grand a week or something like that. Matt Turner right now is on like 15, so we're talking about the wage bill going down again with somebody that would be excited to be at Arsenal, will play in the cup matches, is a good time kind of guy, and is a good shot stopper. He's actually a penalty specialist. So if you were in a cup and you wanted to bring him in to do penalties, you could. And so I'm not particularly worried about this whole like, well, what about our playing style and all that kind of stuff? He's not going to play that much. And but the best thing will be hopefully being able to get a fee for Leno, because I know we won't get much, but it would be nice to get something. So there you go. But Matt Turner is pretty much an Arsenal player. And so I am excited to, I don't know if it's him or Zach Steffen starting tonight. They both kind of share the number one spot. But it's interesting that both Man City and Arsenal will both have American goalkeepers as their backup goalkeepers. And it's just literally not that big of a deal, you guys. Like, goalkeepers for me is not something that we really need to be sitting there like freaking out about. And I'm glad that we got it done. So now we can hopefully just move on from the goalkeeper situation altogether. We just have to focus on selling Leno. Okay. So Gary says, agreed, Runarsson fit our style of play. Look how he turned out. Runarsson. Oh my gosh. Like, sometimes I forget he's still on the books. Like, that was, yeah, very embarrassing recruitment there by Arsenal Football Club. Lucas says, you need a penalty specialist when you have Xhaka. Steve H says, Nketiah spotted at Costa Coffee and Croydon. Cool. Good for Eddie. He's just somebody that, again, like, I think he's in what Clive would call the departure lounge. Like, he's somebody that's already has his mind elsewhere. So it's like, you have your mind elsewhere. I'm also not thinking about you that much, to be honest. Let's see. Where are you guys? We are Goalie FC. We are. Tafsir says, Jess, you think Arsenal going to sign someone after Monday? I have my money on it to happen. It feels like we're cleaning out, like we're clearing the decks for somebody to come in. But we also did this last window, or last January window, where we started to clean up things in January. So it could be just a little bit of that. But this is extreme. Like, this is extreme. The amount of players that we've kind of removed, and the amount of defenders is what's really weird to me, because now it's like we just have Holding and White and Gabriel and Cedric and Tavares, really, like, and then like Tierney and Tomiyasu, but like our backups are like very little. And so that is what's weird to me. But we have done a lot of like shifting players on in this window, not for any like incredible fees, but just kind of like getting rid of people and decreasing that wage bill again. So it feels like maybe somebody could be coming in, but again, it could just be priming the wall per se for the summer window. Again, I think 25, like, I would say, like, I would not be shocked if nobody came in. I wouldn't. The Truth Sets Free says, thank you so much for your super chat as well. Says, great show. Thanks for the consistent football content and such a chill and positive atmosphere. I'm just chilling, y'all. You guys know that this is my thing. I love just like sitting and listening to you, like reading your guys' comments out and all that kind of stuff. It's a good time, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. There's about 300 of you guys here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to go ahead and do some Q&A, let's get it done. You guys can put your questions in the chat box. Just make sure it's obvious that it's a question. You don't have to use all caps or anything like that. Just put a little Q before it, and let's see what you guys are asking. Jean Rene, thank you for your question. Says, could the Chambers and Pablo moves mean that Saliba is definitely going to get a shot in the summer? You know what? That's a really good question. And honestly, that might be something that we're clearing guys out so that we can make it obvious to Saliba that we want him to be in the team. I would love for him to come in and put pressure on Gabriel and Ben White. And he's also somebody that can play as a right back. So that could be potentially what it is. And I really hope that it is, because that would be a huge L to hold. Saliba is going to be one of the best center backs in Europe. He's already one of the best young center backs. He is doing excellently at Marseille. And you would hope that all the development that he's done at Saint Etienne and Nice and Marseille would be the benefit of Arsenal and not some other top team. And because we're also at the point with his contract where he could basically just say, well, you know what, I'm not going to sign a new deal. I can walk away for free. And it would be a shame to, if we have to sell him, to lose him for peanuts as well. So again, this is something that needs to be smoothed over. But without Chambers and without Paul Marie, it would make Saliba like the next man up. And I do think he would put a lot of pressure on Ben White and Gabriel, because I think that he's probably, with some more experience in the Premier League, would probably be just as good as them, if not better, because I think his ceiling is really high. I think Ben White and Saliba's ceiling is very high, and Gabriel's is just under that. But I think there would be some pressure there for their spots, and that's what we need. We need competition for places. These boys are freaking comfortable, and that's why they just, I'm gonna start next week. That's not what we need at Arsenal Football Club. People need to be working for their spots. Mo the First says, I have a general question. Do you think if we get a well-known manager, we will have a faster process? Like if we had Conte, maybe the Dusan deal would have happened. That's why I'm Arteta out. I mean, it didn't make the Adama Traore thing go through. I mean, I get what I get what you're saying. And here's my thoughts on it, is that I think that when you have a novice manager, you have to sell the club more. And it leaves it more up to, there are only certain types of players that are going to listen to you do your presentation on them and really show them how you've scouted them and really sell the project. Some players don't give a shit. They want to say, what are you winning now? What are you winning now? How fast are you going to win this shit? And we're not winning anything anytime soon. That's just the reality. We're not even in Europe, so I think if we had a more experienced manager, I do think it would be easier to sign players, because they would see the manager and think we're going to accelerate quicker. When they see Arteta, they have to really buy into what he's saying, and because there's nothing really to back it up. And trophies and your CV go a long way. There was a long time where we weren't really good at all, where people were coming just to play under Arsene Wenger. And so that just tells you right there that good managers have really good pull, and players don't have to think twice. Like, I think that, I mean, like even like somebody like Steven Gerrard, because he was such a good player and because he won something in the Scottish Premier League, I think he'll have an easier time getting players to buy in. Now, probably not world-class players, but we know how this works. Arteta has to do a lot of selling. And when you have to do a lot of selling, a lot of times people are like, well, is it that good if you have to like show me all this and all this kind of stuff? It should just be obvious that this is the right place for me to be. So I do think having a novice manager does hinder the process a little bit, because only certain players are going to have time to sit around and listen to you give the presentation on why this is the place for you to be. That being said, I think Arteta needs to add more to his CV and show that we're progressing. If we finish in 8th again, then it's going to be very difficult to recruit in the summer. It's going to be very, very difficult to recruit. If we finish in 5th, and just like a point or two off of top 4, or we finish in the top 4, then I think that will show that we're moving in the right direction, and will give us a little bit more substance to what Arteta's saying. Right now, it's just all air. I can imagine Arteta speaking to players and it sounds good, but they just don't believe it because we're losing games and we're sitting in 7th or 6th or whatever, and we're not in Europe, and you've been there for 2.5 years. So what's really going on? And you don't have any connection to Arsenal. A lot of these players, these young players now don't have a connection to Arsenal. They don't care about the Invincibles. They don't give a fuck about Arsene Wenger. He hasn't been here for a long time. So it's kind of like, I do think Arteta hinders us in that way. And that's why he has to show that he is improving the squad, so that people will believe him when he's sitting there saying, you're the player that I really want. You're going to take us to this level. We're going to this level. We're doing this. So I do think if we had a different manager, things would be a lot faster. FPL Money League says, have you ever been to the Emirates? I've been there. I have been there. I've been to 2 matches. I went to Arsenal versus Brighton when Emery was still in charge. And I also went to Arsenal versus Newcastle, where we beat them 4-0. right before the pandemic. So yes, I have been there. HM says, would you try Aubameyang in the Lacazette role if Arteta resolves the rift between them? I mean, that's essentially the role that he was playing before he was kicked to the curb. He just couldn't do it well. Lacazette does the dropping in deep and connecting the play better than Aubameyang. And he also does some of the pressing and the fighting between the center backs and stuff better than Aubameyang. So, I think he would just be plopped right into center forward, which is where Lacazette is playing. And yeah, but I don't think Aubameyang was doing so bad, because there was like a moment where we were playing well with Aubameyang playing as center forward. It was just when things started getting a little bit more tough where he started to slide a little bit. And that's the thing about Aubameyang. He can be kind of a good time Charlie as well, and so when things are not going well, the hard work is stuff that he starts to kind of like not really want to do, So yeah, Aubameyang was like non-existent against Manchester United. The big games are where he really just kind of goes missing, and Lacazette tries in the big games even if he fails a little bit, but yeah, Aubameyang could play center forward. That's what he was playing before, and he was doing somewhat of the Lacazette role. He just wasn't as clean at it. And he was getting himself into the box, but he wasn't finishing his chances. So, yeah. Dean C says, do you think Arteta's new contract should be dependent on getting top 4, or has he done enough for a new deal? I think he has to show progression, because I know some people feel differently, but the being out of all the cups and not having Europa League means that it's top 4 bust. But I don't see a top 4 team when I look at that Arsenal team. I just think it's missing a couple of players, and so I think it'd be very difficult for any manager to get top 4 with that group, especially with Manchester United seeming to getting back into some form, and Spurs being around and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I think he can only get a new contract if he gets us into the top 6 and we're in Europa League. If he doesn't, if he finishes in 7th or 8th or anything around there, he's got to go. That's kind of how I feel. And then the new deal, they're going to give it to him regardless. I have this weird feeling that they are all in with this dude. And because he hasn't gotten his striker yet, and he hasn't got the midfielder yet and all that kind of stuff, they will allow him to, as long as he's not so far off of, as long as he's in and around that area, he will get another window and get the new deal. I don't think he's done enough as of yet. He has to show that progression on the actual table. There is no progression if we finish 7th or 8th this season. There wouldn't have been any progression. But yeah, for me, he needs to show that progression. It has to be tangible on the table. Because I'm really not going to be here for Thomas and Xhaka were meant to start all those games, and look at when we started them, look how great we played, and we were just unlucky. They made a choice not to upgrade the midfield in the summer. So if the midfield is the reason why we don't get into the top 6, or striker is not the reason why we don't get into the top. I think some of these were self-inflicted, so they just have to, it's on them, so I think Arteta really needs to make top 6 in order to get this new deal. But still it would be marginal, because he has us out of like all of the cups so early and all that. It's a mess. It's really a mess right now. Let's see. It's interesting. St. Vincent asked about what type of players in the summer are we going to buy to backfill the wings one day. We have Saka and Martinelli now. Do you buy older players, or do you go young again? I think you go with what's on the market. I think you go with what's in the market. I think when you want to get something that's different to what you already have but still fits. Like there is a clear difference between like Mahrez and Sterling. So you want something a little bit different in that wing section. So I think that ideally you'd want somebody around Pepe's age that could actually be counted upon as a senior kind of member that could be relied upon. But also, I don't think buying experience always works. I think sometimes you have to just go with the player that's the best and just allow them to be that without having to be, oh, he's only 24, he's only 23. Like, if you're good enough, if you're, you're old enough, so um it just depends on what's in the market. But when I look at like certain wing players that I would think we could look at, we were like linked with Gakpo, and I don't know if it's a real link, but when I watched him, I thought that's a profile that we don't have. We don't have like a wide forward that can kind of go central as well. That's really fast and can connect play, but is big and like strong. Somebody like Liao as well. That would be an interesting profile that we don't have. And even like Sabasala is somebody that I still really like as like an attacking creative forward, as that can play off of that left hand side. So I think you just look and see what's actually on the market, but we do need to bring in attackers, and it would be nice if we could address that this summer, like to bring in a midfielder. Like ideally what we should be doing is bringing in a midfielder this window and then bringing in a midfielder and a striker and another attacker in the summer. Like the project has to keep going, and Saka and Martinelli also need pressure on their positions, and right now they're not getting it. So I do think that we need to backfill those wings, but it depends on what's in the market. And experience for me is less important than the profile and what they can give us on the pitch, because you'll grow up on the pitch. Blake Hernandez asks, do you think with the Matt Turner deal, does that mean Leno will leave and Matt Turner will be the backup for Ramsdale, or Turner will be sent on loan during the summer? Matt Turner will arrive in the summer. So this is a deal that is being done in January, but he will not leave until the summer. So Leno will stay until the summer. We'll probably sell him then, but Matt will come then. He won't go out on loan. Let's see. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, you guys. That'd be great. Kanal says, who can be our captain for next season? I mean, Tierney is kind of like the first young player to touch the captain's armband since out of like this new group. So it could be him, but I also kind of think it could be Ben White. I think it's between those two. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that Gabriel would be it. Even though I do think he has good leadership traits and all that kind of stuff, he also has kind of showed himself to be a little bit of a hothead, and you don't really need your captain to be a hothead. You need it to be somebody that's a little bit more calm. So I think it could be one of Tierney or Ben White. Tierney's been around a little bit longer, but I feel like because Ben White plays almost every single game, it probably will be him, which I'd be okay with. I would be. Let's see. Jean Rene, if you could only pick one, striker, wide forward, or midfielder. Really doubt we'll do both, if any. If I can only pick one. Oh, a midfielder. Here's the thing. The midfield is super important. Like, I just feel like if something happens to Xhaka or Thomas Partey, I just want to know that there's somebody there that can keep the level up, because we've been basically playing without a striker the entire season. Aubameyang and Lacazette have been asked the entire season. Let's keep it 100. And Nketiah is not good enough. So, I don't necessarily feel like, I think the striker feels like the biggest issue right now because Lacazette just missed that sitter. But for me, I think that team that we have right now, if they didn't get a single injury and they played like they did in December for the rest of the season, or somewhat like it, we're going to make our targets. But because I'm not sure that I think that Thomas Partey and Xhaka are going to make it through the rest of the season, I would like that midfielder to come in just to bolster that position and then go for the striker in the summer. But it would be nice to get both. The Truth Sets Free says, and thank you so much for your super chat, says Liao and Osimhen and Arsenal are dangerous right away. Osimhen doesn't feel like a real link, but Liao is such a good player. He's developing nicely at AC Milan, and he's somebody that I would really like to somebody like that at Arsenal, like even like a taller, stronger, fast kind of wing forward that can come central. That is kind of what I'm thinking about. And so, like, if you watch Cody Gakpo, who I didn't really know much about until yesterday when we were linked to him, I thought Yeah, that's a profile that we're missing. And he could probably play central if you really wanted him to. You guys are saying Kuleveski news is in. Let me check Twitter and see what's going on. Or you guys could just post it in there for me so I don't have to look. Let's see. Let's see. Looking. Brand new talks commenced tonight between Arsenal and Juventus over a loan move for Kuleveski. All right, cool. So Kuleveski, you guys, I have to be honest. I've watched so many videos of this guy, and I can't make him good in my head. I can't make him good in my head. You guys had to tell me he's good. I don't think he's done. I don't think he's good. But hey, it would add something else, So there you go. Diallo says, who's more of a threat for top four, Man U or Spurs? Oh, Man U for sure. I think, no offense to Spurs, well, offense to Spurs, but no offense, but I just don't see them as they don't have the same quality that Manchester United have. Manchester United have a lot of quality, but it doesn't really go together. But on its day, even if it's not playing well, they get the results. And that's the thing is they don't even have to be good to beat people 3-0. They don't play good football. They're not really the fun team to watch, but they just have enough attackers to just make it work. And so Man United, now that they have a hold of that top four spot, I think they'll kind of sustain it for the rest of the season unless something weird happens. So for me, I think it's Man United. Spurs they're a couple windows away, I think, to be honest. They have Kane and Son, but they don't have much else behind it. Let's see. And when I say Lacazette has been asked, what I mean is that he doesn't score goals. Like he's been good in moments, but bad in others. And one of the most important ones is scoring the goals. He can't really get up there to do it. Tony asked, what do you think about Arsenal? What do you think of Arsenal actually being very quiet in terms of leaking transfers? I freaking love that none of the in the knows had the Chambers news. Yeah, I think we are more quiet than people think. I think some of these little accounts get what the clubs are willing to give them, and sometimes they just don't give them the right information. They don't give them any information. They just warn them off the trail. Like they try to push them away so that they can get stuff done. And Arsenal have been very quiet since Adu has been here. And so we know a lot of the deals that we had going. I mean, for a while, we thought Odegaard wasn't coming in. Remember, for a minute, it was Odegaard has rejected us and he wants to stay at Real Madrid. He ended up being an Arsenal player. Ben White was really Ben White and Ramsdale were the players last season that were more publicized. It was very obvious that we're going for those players, but Tavares was very undercover. Tomiyasu was very undercover. So we may be having something like that. I hope so. But yeah, I do like that we're more quiet and not leaking stuff out there. And it's also good because it's kind of like if it doesn't happen, you don't have to feel the brunt of it going against you like Vlahovic, so there you go. But there was no way that like the Vlahovic one would have went down anyway, other than the way that it went down. We couldn't have kept that a secret. Let's see. Jay says, how have we only got 20 people in our 25-man Premier League squad, and one of those men is Auba, who it seems like it's not going to be involved. We must be looking to sign 3 players. I mean, if you bring in 3 players, you're good to go, so maybe we're trying to get 3 players in. I don't know. Dave Riley says, why don't the Kroenke just go all in like he does with the LA Rams? I can't even get into that right now. He loves American football. So, of course, he's going to go harder for that than he is for Arsenal. Remember, he never bought, Arsenal to win trophies. He said that, So they have put money in. They did try to buy Vlahovic. We have to be fair that they did try to buy Vlahovic, and that was going to be a very expensive signing, So, but they don't love Arsenal the way that they love the Rams. They're always going to go hard for that, So there you go. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now so that I can get ready for the US men's game and just kind of chill for the rest of the evening. Thank you guys so much for joining me. There was almost like 300 of you guys here. You guys make sure you come back like after the transfer window is done, because I don't see all of you guys like when the transfers are not here. Like, why aren't you guys here? Like when we're just talking about like after games and our previews and stuff like that. You guys should come back. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. I want to see you guys back after the transfer window. But there's about 300 of you guys here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of that great and wonderful stuff. Get in the comment section. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.